1251 is the text. You can tweet the programme at RTÉ Arena. 20 Shots of Opera is the title of a series of short operas commissioned by the Irish National Opera and recorded in conjunction with the RTÉ Concert Orchestra. Billed as the biggest single event commissioning project in Irish operatic history, 20 Shots of Opera features the cream of Irish talent in operatic and classical composition, performance and theatre direction. The series director is Hugh O'Connor, who's with me in studio now, and on the line is composer Éanna Brennan, whose short opera Rupture is one of the pieces in the series. And Hugh, I've said to you when you came in through the door, it is you, Hugh O'Connor, isn't it? The Hugh O'Connor that many of us will know as an actor and remember as an actor, and you're still acting, I'm presuming. I know there's photography has been in the mix recently as well, as has film direction. Where on earth did you find the time? Because this is a huge project. 20 shots of opera, 20 short operas, and what period of time did you put them together in?
Great to see you, Sean. It was, I think we sort of started, I came on board anyway in September when Fergus Shield got in touch with me, so it's been quite fast in terms of, it's now middle of December, we're pretty much done, almost.
You were admitting to me that there's a little bit of work to be done.
A little bit left to do.
But that's fine. So, did Fergus come to you with this idea, let's do 20 short operas and let's get them up online before the Christmas holidays, effectively?
Yeah, exactly. I think they'd originally been planning to do, I think it was William Tell in the Gaiety in November, and obviously with COVID they weren't able to do that, so I think he was probably working on it for a good while before he got in touch with me. But himself and Gavin and Diego in INO got this amazing team together, so he had already commissioned the music when he got in touch with me and had picked some of the singers and all that, so then we kind of started discussing about how we do it and how to make it work.
Yeah, well, I'm also wondering, was it you or Fergus that sat down with a sheet of paper and wrote out a wish list that had names like Irene Buckley teaming up with Jessica Traynor, the poet, and massively with an opera called Ghost Apples, Linda Buckley and Deirdre Ní Ghréife, Conor Lenihan and Louis Lovett, Gerald Barry, who's putting the words to some young upstart called Ludwig van Beethoven, has provided the words for that particular opera from Gerald Barry, and that's only, how many is it? It's 3 or 4 of them, 3 or 4 of the 20, and when you go across the performers, it really is everybody you would want to be there.
It really is. It's an amazing group of people, and the directors as well that Fergus got on board, people who I would always love to work with even as an actor, and I got to sort of collaborate with them, which was just amazing. And the behind the scenes people that I got to sort of work with, like Paul Keoghan, the lighting designer, and Sarah Bacon, production designer, Katie Davenport, Hugh Challing, the editor, Colin from German Design, to do all the design work. They were such a great team together.
And when you started in on it then, was the idea that you would direct a few operas and kind of help with the logistics? Did it become clear that there was more involved very quickly?
Yeah, I think so. Once we realised that there was a 4-week rehearsal process out in RTÉ, and I think just practically it wasn't going to be possible to rehearse them all myself, and I was very glad that I didn't have to. So Fergus started bringing out a group of other directors on board. Joe Mangan did 5, and then some brilliant other directors, Katrina McLaughlin and Annabelle Gummin, and lots of people came on board to do one themselves. So it ended up, I think, being about 12 directors that I sort of worked with, and I got to do 3 myself with people like Deirdre Ní Ghréife and Buckley, which was just a dream for me, and Marco Halloran and Alex Dowling, and it was amazing anyway.
Yeah. As I say, if we said all the names, that would be an item in itself, because it really is a real wish list right across theatrical and operatic talent, and I guess that's the way it should be. Éanna Brennan then, Éanna, your opera is called Rupture. You've composed several pieces called Rupture previous to this, but this is the first foray into the operatic realm.
It is, Sean. Hi, it's great to talk to you.
You too.
Yes, it is the first time I've kind of dipped my toe into the opera world. As Hugh mentioned, Fergus had intended on doing something completely different, obviously, with INO for the latter part of 2020, but then the pandemic happened. So there was quite a short turnaround for them to figure out what they were going to do with the latter part of the year. And similarly, there was quite a short turnaround for the composers. I think Fergus got in touch with me at the beginning of September, and then the first vocal score deadline was the 21st of September. So for someone who hasn't written an opera before, that's quite daunting. So I decided to turn to a body of work that I'd already started many years previous, called Rupture. And I've actually written 5 other versions of this story, we'll say. And they kind of encapsulated a lot of, we'll say, existential dread and lots of themes that would be very relevant for this year. But it was a great challenge to take kind of very abstract themes of rupture and, separation and consciousness and put them into a more dramatic narrative for operatic context.
It says the blurb reads, sometimes we are our own worst enemy. We fall victim to a conscience poisoned by society's repressing landscape. A rupture occurs within ourselves, the timeless fight between good and evil. So you've realised, and these are your own words. You wrote the libretto for this as well, Éanna.
I did, yeah. There was an option to work with the librettist, which I would have loved to have done, but again, with the time available, I thought I'd probably be better off writing it myself and trying to have the words inform the music and vice versa. So thankfully, I did have a starting point. I did have, let's say, 4 or 5 lines that I'd used in a kind of more of a choral setting, really, from the previous works. So I had something to go on, but obviously for this more narrative-driven piece, that needed to be developed exponentially. So my first draft, I think, of the libretto ended up being far too long, and Fergus was like, this looks like it's a 20-minute or 15-minute opera, you're going to have to shorten it down. So it was a lot of fun writing the libretto for it.
Planting a little idea in his head for the future. Very clever thing to do. So
you never know.
You have two. Is it fair to call them two characters? Richard Good, the soprano, and Sarah Richmond, the mezzo soprano. Are they playing two characters? Are they playing two sides of the same coin? How would you explain what it is?
I would say they're playing two parts of the one person, maybe. So again, this rupture is very much within ourselves. So we have Rachel Good, who is woman, and then we have Sarah Richmond, who's conscience. And the idea is that woman is kind of happily sitting, ruminating on her dreams and aspirations, and this conscience comes in and dampens her spirit and starts demeaning her and pouring essentially a cold pail of water over all her hopes. And it's kind of about that conflict and how the woman is in a way able to surmount that, but we're kind of left, without spoiling it, we're left with a sense of, foreboding, and that the conscience could return.
Yeah, we all know those inner voices that scratch away at it. So, I want to listen to the opening section of the opera. It's absolutely beautiful music, as people will hear now, as we get. This is exactly what people will hear when they log on to listen. Of opera project that we're speaking about this evening with Éanna herself, the composer, obviously, and with Hugh O'Connor, who's the series director. And the minute I listened to that earlier on today, I was struck that just that beautiful marimba sound is so soothing to listen to at any rate. And then in creeps the violin. Your principal instrument is the violin. Did you owe it to the violin to get it in there early on?
I was delighted to work with this instrumentation, with the RTÉ concert orchestra in particular. Fergus actually he had 2 ensemble options that he divvied up, which was great. One was string heavy, and the other was more of a, we'll say, a timbre mixture of woodwind, brass, and strings. And I straight away went for strings because, as you say, I play the violin myself. And there was also the option of a percussionist, and I straight away jumped at the idea of pairing the vibraphone. So it's actually a vibraphone with the strings. because I thought there's such a beautiful density in the chords that you can create
Yeah.
with the vibraphone, and I thought that alongside the strings would be just so warm and really a lovely palette to work with.
And the other thing that struck me,
yeah.
the other thing that struck me was, and I wondered again. I mean, obviously as a composer, you don't just think about the instrument you play, but I did wonder about. There's such a lovely melody in there. It is almost like a violin line as it opens. It's Rachel whose voice we hear first, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Rachel Good as woman in that opening section, and it is like a long violin line, and that point is often made that the violin and the human voice are very close to each other. Do you think that made composing for the voice and for the single voice and the duo as you do in this, the duet as you do in this, did that help?
I think I definitely approached writing it in both melody and harmonic ways. Like I wanted to look at, in a sense, the vibraphone and the strings are in a way a dichotomy that parallels, we'll say, the two voices.
Yeah.
So you have the strings and the vibraphone kind of answering to each other alongside the mezzo and the soprano, which is something I kind of played with texturally. But I definitely wanted that idea of every instrument getting their moment, and even though the strings are very much a kind of a dense underbelly, we'll say, a kind of sea underneath the voices, I definitely wanted to give them a lot of prominence or importance in the piece, so they have, once you get, there's a middle section that's a little bit more,
yes.
A bit more jaunty maybe, and it's when the conscience starts to take over.
Yeah, we get it more a bigger sense.
There's a little bit more going on.
Yeah, and more of a conflict going on in the middle, as you mentioned,
exactly.
which is the essential, I suppose, dramatic tension within Rupture. So, Hugh O'Connor, then coming back to you, Hugh, as I said before the program started, 20 operas, 4 weeks. I mean, even the logistics of, given the times we are now living in, I know things have eased, restrictions have eased slightly in recent times, but getting the orchestral arrangements sorted, getting the orchestral arrangements recorded, the singers in with all of that, simply the logistics of all of that must have been a nightmare.
It was a massive logistical challenge, but I mean Ferguson and all that, he's so visionary in terms of what he wants to do, and he was so creative, I think, in coming up with this and giving so many people a chance to write and come up with something quite quickly. And sometimes that's a good thing, not to have too much time to worry about it. And some people wrote about the pandemic, some people made it much more universal, and it was so interesting to see what people came back with in terms of their own ideas. And then for us to be able to make them quite cinematic was really challenging and exciting too, rather than just making them a filmed stage piece.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to say. That you put the logistics of the orchestra and the singers into it. Now you've got to get cameras into the mix as well, and you didn't just want it to be static camera and we put two at either side and we just cut between.
Exactly.
And you have been directing films yourself in recent times. You've been moving in that direction. How important was it, and how did, again, the logistics of that? Filming the opera, I know that we're talking short operas, but still.
Yeah, I mean, we did 2 a day, and we had basically 2.5 hours to film each one. So, we started really early in terms of, I worked with the directors and just said, look, we're going to have this amount of time. We'll probably get 20 minutes a shot. Let's do our storyboard. Let's work out all your shots in advance. We'll time everything so that we'll just have the most opportunity to take advantage of our time. So in the end, we really did have everything was different. We did 2 animation projects as well. One of them that I directed is an animation, Holly Keating animated, and another one that Katrina directed. So it's been, there's a real mix of styles as well, which is exciting.
And I mean, I've mentioning you and directing Metal Heart 2018, the comedy you were in speaking with us.
Yes, that's right.
Script by Paul Murray, directed by yourself. That experience must have been hugely useful feeding into filming of this nature.
It really was. It was a great sort of learning experience, and sort of I sort of cut my teeth a bit on music videos as well back in the day, and so I feel like there was a kind of a nice confidence of it all. And then coming from an acting background, it's great to feel like you can work with performers and feel a bit of their pain, although the singers I have such incredible respect for.
Well, on the basis of what we just heard, and when I look again, and let's look at some of the other names that are there: Claudia Boyle, Maria Burek, Rachel Croce, Meredith Drum, Andrew Gavin and Gavin Ring in the tenors category, and in the actor Sean McGinley and Emily Metcalf. So it's right across the board. Ian, coming back to that project of yours, Rupture, and I think the opera as it stands, the version that we're getting is about 8 minutes long. Could the Rupture project, could it become something bigger? Is there a chance that actually could be developed into a full operatic score, or that could work in that direction?
Oh, who knows, Sean? I am just excited with each edition of Rupture that I've gotten the option to work with different amazing performers. So every piece up till now has had different people, whether it be vocalists or instrumentalists involved. And I think because in its bare bones, it's a very abstract concept that I'm kind of treating. It's really flexible. So I've kind of tended to dip into it whenever someone's approached me for a commission or any kind of collaboration. I'm like, maybe this could be a Rupture. So I think there's infinite ways I could probably play around with it. But I think one thing I'm going to try and focus on is actually maybe recording the ones that I have written properly, because getting the opportunity to work with such amazing engineers and performers for this specific Ruptures really made me think, the performances of the previous ones I've just kind of let go to the wayside. So it'll be a bit of both, looking backwards and forwards.
You're no stranger to arranging for orchestra anyway. I mean, what you had done probably imagining Ireland, wasn't that what you were involved? What was the operatic or the orchestral arranging that you were involved in quite recently?
Yeah, I was involved in, and that was a few years ago now. I think it might have been a 2017 or 2018 edition of that. That was great. I wrote for Crash Ensemble, and they were a string quartet that were accompanying the likes of Lisa Hannigan, Saint Sister, Paul Noonan. It was wonderful. And more recently, I've kind of been arranging for Bell X1 quite regularly, and a quartet that I run called Dairy Strings. So yeah, a lot of the time it ends up being string ensembles that I work with, but I'm always open to anyone who needs any arrangements.
And now we work out why there's such a sense of melody in there. It's clearly from all of those projects as well. Well, congratulations to you, Ina, on Rupture specifically.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations to you on what I've seen and heard of 20 Shots of Opera so far. I'm very excited about it. It'll be available from tomorrow evening, Thursday, December the 17th, on the website of the Irish National Opera, which is irishnationalopera.ie. Let's finish up by listening to the end of Ina's opera, Rupture. Wouldn't that soothe your mind and your soul for you? 20 Shots of Opera, the closing sector of Rupture from Ina Brennan. And as I said, you'd get all 20 shots of opera available from tomorrow evening. You're going to running home to do some work in them right now. Thursday, December the 17th, irishnationalopera.ie.